I'd like to welcome each one here this evening. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of Anishinaabe, Ottawa, and Mississauga peoples. Number 2 is confirmation of the agenda. The Council of Township of North Huron hereby approves the agenda for June 1, 2026 council meeting as presented. May I have a mover? Councillor Wright, Deputy Reeve, all in favor? Carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Seeing none. Consent agenda that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby adopts consent items 4.1.1 and further that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives consent items 4.1.2 to 4.3.11 for information purposes. May I have a mover? Councillor Van Hitterson, Councillor Whitfield. Would anybody like to pull anything from it? Go ahead, Councillor Palmer, please.
Yeah, thank you, Reeve. I'd like to pull 4.3.4, and it's the town of Plimpton, Wyoming, and it's regarding the resolution to support for sustainable provincial grant funding for fire services. It's always a challenge for municipalities to keep up with the requirements of a good fire service, and this is something that we totally need. Right now, it's a competitive type of grant, and it should be, if you need it, you should get it.
Okay, thank you. Would anybody else like to pull anything? Seeing none, I'll go over to Clerk Lamb, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So if the mover and seconder, mover being Councillor Van Hitterson and seconder being Councillor Whitfield, are fine with the friendly amendment proposed by Councillor Palmer, your new motion would be that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby adopts consent item 4.1.1 and further that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives consent items 4.1.2 to 4.3.11 exclusive of 4.3.4 for information purposes.
Yes. Right. Okay. All in favor? Carried.
And your second motion, which has been moved by Councillor Palmer, is that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby directs staff to send a letter of support for agenda item 4.3.4.
Seconder, Councillor Whitfield, all in favor? Carried. At this time, we're going to public meeting, hearing, and delegation. So we're very fortunate tonight to have Lisa and Willie. So if you could please come up. Whenever you're ready, please go ahead.
That's better? Okay. Good evening. Thank you for having us. My name is Lisa Taylor, and I'm the chair of the Huron Hospice Board of Directors. Having been with the board for over 6 years, I have to say what an honor it is to be part of such a strong and enthusiastic volunteer board of directors and to be part of such an excellent organization. As a local resident to Wingham, I must also acknowledge our appreciation for the caring community in support of Huron Hospice over the years. As many are aware, excuse me, after finishing our renovations for the 2 additional beds that were to realize our 6-bed hospice goal, we were without ministry funding and we were advised we could not operate the 2 beds. The closure of these beds has been felt in the Huron County community, and the annual operating costs being sought from the Ministry of Health is a meaningful and necessary investment in our aging community. Our purpose here today is to ask for a letter signed by the Mayor on behalf of Council to the Honorable Sylvia Jones, Minister of Health, asking her to fund and open the 2 beds at Huron Hospice that have been closed for over 18 months now. As well, we are asking North Huron councillors attending the AMO this year to advocate with the Ministry of Health representatives to fund and operate the 2 beds at Huron Hospice. And if the beds are funded and opened by August, then to change that ask to a thank you to the Ministry of Health representatives. Now I'll turn it over to our ED, Willie Van Klooster.
Not sure how to advance this. Is it with the arrows? Oh, there it is. It happened. Okay. So these are the sketches, drawings that we had prepared before doing that expansion from, as Lisa said, 4 to 6 beds. Am I doing the right thing with the arrow?
There.
Oh, it's just going slowly. Okay. We knew from the beginning we needed 6 and not 4 beds. The 4-bed model is not sustainable. It's quite broadly known in the province that it isn't sustainable. The reason for that is because we're required as a 4-bed hospice to have 2 nurses 24/7, but the funding for those 4 beds doesn't really pay even for those nurses, let alone all the other expenses. If you get the funding then for 6 beds, there's no additional cost in nursing because it's still 2 nurses covering the 6 beds. Follow? And so that's why we've been trying to move this. And right from the beginning, we made it clear the time didn't allow us to do a capital campaign or to do the construction within the time frame in 2018 when the ministry said we had to be open to access the money for the 4 beds. So we just indicated we would expand to 6 as soon as we could. They gave us money to do the drawings for the 6 beds, which were ready by the time we opened in 2018. So then the capital campaign began in 2020, and we had a ton of support from the community all through the county. These are names and organizations that you would recognize that have contributed to the campaign. And then, again, I'm just waiting for it to advance here. Oh, there we go. And then we, by the middle of 2023, got permission to move ahead to do the build. Here's the problem is that during the time that we were doing this process, I was continually in contact with the ministry to find out the steps we needed to take to do the capital build, but also, I keep trying this, also to get the money for the additional 2 beds to operate. What became clear from the beginning is that the ministry has a policy that they can't approve the capital expansion without first approving the operating funds, which makes sense. Why build something if you can't operate them? But we continued through the process and they directed us this way and that way and another way to get the money for those beds, and nothing worked. And we kept in good faith following their direction about how we would get that money, and nothing worked. And then they did approve us to go ahead and do the build without having the operating money. So in our view, it seemed they had violated their own policy, but we were at least getting the capital funding along with the money we had raised in the community for us to do the build. And then during that process, even while we were starting the construction, they asked us to demonstrate that our occupancy was at least at 80% to demonstrate the need in the community, right, for these beds. And so we demonstrated over 12 months that we were 79.9%, which they quite happily accepted as 80%, with the kind of implied message that we would get funded if we got to that occupancy level, but didn't happen. Then we had a meeting that actually Lisa Thompson convened with some senior ministry people a month away from the time we were to open our new expanded facility, saying like, gotta get us this money. Like, what's going on here, right? And they said, we just haven't got it. We're not gonna be able to give it to you, but you can apply because there's a new round of funding that's coming up this fall. So the last round, as I just said, was in 2018. Now the new one was in 2024. So we applied, put forward our case, and we met all of the criteria, of course, about being ready to go, demonstrating the need, and we weren't successful with that either. So frankly, we just don't know what's going on, but Lisa's been in our corner throughout the time that we've been trying to do this. So we've had 6 years of regular channel meetings, 14 of them to be precise, with lots of letters. We've acted in good faith, we believe. We think they violated their own policy. We've now turned away 71 people in this year and a half who could not get in because we were full. And the hospice, our hospice, is rated, this is a bad rating. We're the 6th highest in the province for what's called pre-admission deaths. So for every 100 people who would get into our hospice, 83 would be turned away because we would not have capacity. This is not a good number, but it is demonstrating that we're one of the worst in the province in terms of having this problem of people not being able to get in. So, of course, you all know this, that hospice beds cost about half of the cost of a bed in a hospital, and we want to relieve the pressure from the hospital system and make those beds available for people who need it for the purpose that is required in a hospital. So here's where we're at. We now had our supporters, we invited our supporters to write letters to the Minister of Health. We're aware of 155 letters. I read every single one of those because we got copies of them and was deeply moved. These were powerful letters by people who are saying, you know, husband or my mother was in a hospital, wanted to come into the hospice and couldn't get in. And they talked from their own experience and lots of other letters. We're not aware of anybody getting any response from the Minister of Health, including the Board of Directors, who sent the very first letter on January 16th. So this has been very disappointing. We're now working on other strategies to actually become a little more aggressive, to try other things in order to try to get across the finish line. So we're back to where we started with these two requests from your council, a letter from the mayor and your presence. If you are going to be part of any delegation, I know there's a request process and you may not get accepted, but at the AMO, if you have a chance to be in front of ministry people, we'd love to advocate for us.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Willie and Lisa. So are there any questions for the delegates from the floor, please? Go ahead, Councillor Palmer, please.
Thank you, Raven, through you. Just the utter disappointment, and we're just sort of hearing it for the first time, and you're living it. Very disappointed. Can you say what the funding extra would be required to go from 4 to 6?
Oh, yeah, it's a standard amount. So for all hospices in Ontario, it's 175,000 per bed per year. So it's block funding. And so we would be getting 350,000 annually to help us. And one of the things that was disappointing is that we know that between funding rounds, in this case, it was 2018 and 2024, it's common for 1 bed here, 2 beds there to be funded between rounds. So we knew there was a precedent for it. And we have a list of all the hospices that got funded between funding rounds, and we weren't on that list. Yeah.
Any other questions from?
Sorry, I was just going to add that as Willie explained about the 4-bed model, it's a very inefficient model. And there's only 2 4-bed hospices in the province. The other one is in Central Hastings, north of Madoc somewhere. But it's already had to close because of how poor that model is. And yeah, it's obviously a concern.
And this is sort of funny, but not really. You might ask, well, how have we survived 7 years then if we were unsustainable? We got lucky. There was a pandemic. There was all that emergency funding, during the pandemic. That got us through a couple of years. And then we've had some very generous estate gifts from people who have died. And that's helped us to get through the last couple of years. So it's been a bit of luck, but you can't build a budget on luck.
Okay, well, thank you. If there's no other questions, then I'll ask our Clerk Lamb to bring forward a motion.
Through your worship, it's up to council how you want to deal with the delegation. If council has no concerns with the request, I can certainly read a motion based on the request, or if council just wants to receive for information, those would basically be your options. So I'd look to the floor for
Okay.
direction.
Go ahead, Councillor Palmer, please.
Yeah, through you, Reed. It'd be good if you drafted a motion, please.
You?
So then based on the request, and I guess maybe before I'll read the motion, I just will note that the deadline to submit a delegation to AMO was May 21st, so it has passed, but there are still opportunities at the AMO conference to meet with ministers. So that is certainly an avenue. The motion would be that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby directs staff to send a letter signed by the Reeve to the Honorable Sylvia Jones, Minister of Health, asking her to fund and open 2 beds at Huron Hospice, which have been closed for 18 months. And further, that council hereby encourages those attending the AMO conference on behalf of the Township of North Huron to advocate with the Ministry of Health representatives to fund and open the 2 beds at Huron Hospice. So you have Councillor Palmer as a mover.
Seconder, please. Councillor McBurney, all in favor? Carried. Okay, thank you very much, Lisa and Willie. Appreciate that. Now we'll move on to 5.2. Barbara Robinson, River Road Creative Internal Communications and Marketing Plans, Project Status and Next Steps. So I'll turn it over to our CAO when she gets on there.
All
Hi,
right.
Barbara. I'll turn you over with our CAO. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Reeve Pepper, and through to members of council. I'd like to introduce Barbara Robinson. She's been our consulting experts from River Road Creative to support the communications and marketing plans that we'll be reviewing both tonight and then at a future meeting for the marketing specifically. Our team, collectively with our community engagement officer and our economic development officer, helped put together a number of these initiatives outlining, kind of where we are today and where we'd see these plans coming in forward to support our community and our township as a whole. So I'll turn it over to Barbara to take us through the first phases that we've gone through.
Thank you, Nelson. I'm just going to share my screen. Can everyone see it?
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Nelson, and thank you, members of council, for inviting me here today with Nelson on behalf of the team to present communications work that we've done to date. I'd also like to give a shout out to Tyler for helping me get set up, and also importantly to acknowledge the assistance of council staff, township staff, particularly Denise and Ritu for their enormous contribution to this effort. So I'm going to be just giving a brief overview of where we're at with communications and marketing. And it's my understanding that council has received a package which contains most of the documents that I'm going to talk about today. So I set this up, or we set this up in 3 phases. Phase 1, a situational analysis. So basically that's an audit or an inventory of communications to date. What is the township doing regarding communications? Phase 2, the plan to develop an international communications plan. And phase 3, the marketing plan. So when we reach out to the community and beyond, what's our strategy? So Nelson will talk a little bit more about the marketing plan towards the end of this brief presentation. So phase 1, the situational analysis, it really is an audit. So we're looking at how is communications handled within the township and what's the system that you have in place. So we're looking at previous communication strategies, products, any marketing that you've done, branding and processes. And we did this through a series of interviews and meetings. We did a lot of research looking into your archives, and we reviewed and assessed the following. So we really looked at that internal branding and protocol piece, as well as writing guidelines. We looked at establishing performance metrics or key performance indicators, KPIs, in order to understand where we started and how much we've moved the needle. It's really important, especially when you're investing in a consultant like me, to know that the work is going to take you to a new level. We reviewed the current social media policy and looked at social media postings, the frequency of postings, the followers, the engagement. We also looked outside at news, media stories, media interest, and that community channel through radio and print. We reviewed the key messages, and to me, the key messages are almost like your sales pitch. So what are you saying about yourselves? What are you saying to others? And we also connected with and reviewed the work of other townships. So we connected with Morris Turnberry. We had some great interviews with their team. And we looked at what other townships are doing in terms of communications and marketing. So in that situational analysis, why did we do this? The goal with a situational analysis is, I mean, it's a fundamental in communications so that you're not duplicating efforts, so that you're, I mean, really you want to empower your team to to do well, to serve the community, to be positioned as professional, credible, responsive. They're the voice, we're all the voice of the township. So this is why we do this situational analysis. And we're going to look at areas that are working well, of which within the township, I must say, there's quite a few. You've got a great team in the CAO office and beyond. Areas that need refreshing, where there's opportunity for improvement, and what's missing. So that's one of the things that I also bring to the table, because I've done these situational analysis before, so we can introduce new opportunities. So we did this to support the communications plan and the situational analysis. We really wanted to present it as observations, challenges and opportunities to inform future work. All of these projects are quite iterative, so we learn, we grow, we build, that sort of thing, and we go back to review and revise where necessary. So we really wanted to listen, not to lead or influence at this point. We wanted to understand the township communication system, techniques, and learn before we recommended actions. So that led us to phase 2, which is the internal communications plan development. If you don't have an internal communications plan, it's very difficult to succeed with a marketing plan. So the communications plan, the internal communications plan, includes a typical communications plan. We've included a lot of infographics to simplify the system and how things work. And we also developed some supporting or associated documents. They're supporting documents, really. I've called them appendices because it's just easier when putting them in the compilation. But they may not stay named appendices, because each of these is essentially a work on its own. And anyway, so the first one we did was an overview of the township of North Huron, basic information about the township that any staff member or council member or volunteer we would like them to know. For internal communications for the team, which includes everyone, not just management, we looked at what are some things we can do internally, 10 simple things to unify us as a whole, as a group. And the more unified the internal communications is, so that the team is, that's almost like a united front when you start doing your external marketing. So we also developed visual branding guidelines. The township had some great visual branding guidelines with the logo. We added some color schemes for that, and we also worked in some font. It was a very collaborative effort. And then we developed editorial guidelines, so writing guidelines, and those are basically it's the Canadian style guide approach, so consistency with writing. And then the staff directory, which was already developed, but we added to it to include roles and responsibilities. So phase 2, communications plan, which has been completed. We have this is just a framework here of products and services to inform communications and marketing going forward, and to empower the team with these resources. So when they're doing their work, we're all on the same page and we can do it well. We're well trained, and we feel positive about what we're doing, because we understand the material. So the goal is to build on this framework eventually. It's a starting point. So we've got strategies and policies. So that's those, it all comes down to those strategic goals, the 2024 to 2027 document that this council put together with the 6 focus areas. I mean, these are really your key messages. And we looked at it, there's a corporate communications policy. So we did a little bit of work on that, Nelson and I together, social media policy. And then in terms of plans and guidelines, the internal communications plan, which has been developed, the marketing plan, Nelson's going to speak to that a bit later. It's in development. It's well on its way. I think it just needs to be refined and fine-tuned. And then, of course, the visual branding guidelines and the editorial branding guidelines. These are resources. And then, or they're plans and guidelines, but they're really resources, as are the tools. So the about the township, the internal recommendations. And I also included the employee engagement and wellness committee. I was really happy to see that this committee exists, and there's an opportunity for employees, staff, the team to share concerns and to be supported in this way. And of course, training is going to be key to all of this through onboarding kits and a communications kit, which is going to include much of this material. So that's my overview, and I'll turn it over to Nelson to speak about the marketing plan. And before you take over, Nelson, I just want to thank everyone again for being here. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you for that, Barbara, and really appreciate, again, the continued commitment you've made for us as a township, but also across the departments, and ensuring you heard everyone's voices and concerns, and how we're looking to communicate, through the plan that's in place, but then also to make actions and tactics that have come from there. So it's a truly township-wide project that we've put together here. In referencing the marketing plan, this is basically the tools, the products that we'll produce to help communicate and share the goals that we've identified within the communications plan itself. So when we talk about some of the marketing, we look at some of the improvements that we can make across the township, from our branding exercise to new signage or improved signage in locations throughout the township. But then also helps us tell key messages. It helps us target audiences specific to what maybe the season is. So if this is a summer tourism season, what's available, what's on tap here in North Huron, we'll be able to start to put those proposals together in a key form. Also, part of that is to identify the opportunities and track the growth that we're seeing. So when we start seeing, our growth in social media, how many followers do we have on our pages? How many are on LinkedIn? How many are through Facebook or even through even our activity on our recruitment efforts. It kind of touches each part of the work that the township does or tries to accomplish throughout each season. So putting those, assets and those services that we provide day to day, communicating those. That time of year that we have the winter control coming on, providing a notice or a burst in public to communicate that. The marketing plan is going to identify specific keys on those messages to the community, and similar to special weeks or recognition of weeks within the calendar year, supporting fire safety, fire prevention, supporting notices about the maintenance that we're doing on our hydrants, on our fire hydrants, so that the community knows what's happening. That's all going to be kind of encompassed within the marketing plan, and try to make that as visually attractive as possible, and then include additional community conversations through newsletters that we could supply through our notices, whether it's our tax notices or water billings. We have opportunities to put more messaging and have that more coordinated and concentrated, is what the marketing plan kind of brings to light. And then ultimately, today, we're looking, and we'll speak more to it during the presentation of reports, but we're looking for additional input from council at this point. Certainly endorse the work that's been presented to date, but also identify other opportunities that we want to make sure we're not going to, overlook as part of this effort to really step up our consistent messaging for the township as a whole. So that concludes that. Barbara, any other words you want to reference on that? I know the marketing plan has been a interesting journey so far.
No, I think I've covered it. Just to say, it's a great team at the township, and you're really doing some amazing work. And I appreciate the opportunity to work with you.
Thank you, Barbara, and our CAO. So at this time, I'm going to turn over to the floor. If there are any questions for either or here, okay? Go ahead, Councillor Wright, please.
Yes, thanks for your two questions, if I may ask them both. First, on the communication plan, it was talked about, I guess, or referenced here as an internal communication plan. But was there any standardization of the communications that council receives from staff or from the CAO? Because I've seen that certainly change from where it is today to where it was 3 years ago. But, I think it would be helpful to have that communication standardized in policy as well. What communication we get outside of what's in the agenda package, for example, right? So that's just a suggestion. And then the other thing with the marketing plan, just wonder what the plan is to involve, the BIA associations. We have an informal realtor group in town that runs programs like spring showers and the sidewalk sales. So just wonder how the marketing North Huron is going to involve, those business organizations. And maybe that needs to be developed. And so maybe there isn't a solution yet, but I wonder, is the intent in order to reach out to those organizations and incorporate what they try to do into North Huron's marketing plan?
CAO, please.
Okay. Barbara, do you want to tackle the first one about the internal plan and the essence of the communications we're trying to push forward?
Yes, and I mean, we've touched on it in the plan a little bit, but I'd welcome a little more detail on what you'd like to see there. Perhaps if it put in writing, because I'm not exactly clear on that.
Well, I guess the idea is when something happens within the town business, when should council be notified via an email or some other format, right, about that happening? Because, for example, I don't think council should be expected to find things out over social media, right, over a North Huron post, right? I think we should be getting a little bit more direct communication with that. And I don't know how the rest of council feels, but I think I think there's just sometimes a lack of thought of, hey, we should, because all staff knows about it, so that you can get into that group think that everybody knows about it. But there are things that have come up where hey, Councillor Wright, have you heard about this? And it's like, no, don't know anything about it. Didn't see it on social media. Didn't get an email from staff. So again, just a little bit, maybe it's more standardized so that staff know, when they should just be sending an update to council, as opposed to, I mean, we do get those updates, but it seems to be just kind of a spur of the moment decision as opposed to a standardized policy.
I think you make an excellent point, and we have discussed that, and we have discussed process and ensuring that everyone who needs to know is informed. But I think what I'd like to do is look at that again, revisit that, and see how we can make it a little clearer.
Mm-hmm. And just to support those comments, part of our preliminary discussions was how do we make those consistent communications to council? We talked about sharing the schedule. We know when during services to the public, there's times of the season year that we know we're going to start new services or reinitiate programs or projects. That'd be a good time to also copy council on those same initiatives, so you're aware of, hey, we're going to be making these posts over the next 2 weeks about sidewalk clearing, or whether it's the street sweeping or the changes regarding maybe some potential road closures coming or pending. We'll get those notices to council at the same time or prior to posting online, so that council members can be further aware of those those happenings. Again, those are the ones that we know and can plan for. Then creating a consistent plan, saying if something does happen out of the ordinary, that we have a fall to plan or a report that says, okay, here's a letter or message that we're sending to all staff, obviously copying council as well. We started to endorse that with, new hires, for example, but how do we stretch that across to the other departments as well? So having maybe like a weekly check-in with our departments to say what's news this week that we can share with council before going into the weekend kind of thing, before you hear that. So we've had those discussions. We just haven't been able to put together what that package looks like. So that'll probably come more in a shape with the marketing plan. So we kind of show this is the intentional communication with council. Then the secondary question back to the marketing plan. So part of our initial research and internal conversations, we have reached out to, for example, our neighbors. So Morris Turnberry was spoken to about potentially sharing communications or advising them of what we're trying to do, kind of get them in step with what may be happening there that would be supportive for their residents to be aware of as well. But then also reaching out to our partners and our groups to say, what events are you happening? So again, through our community engagement, kind of post that to, again, not just our community calendar, but what's happening within our marketing plan and what time of year is that happening? So we can propose that as part of our overall initiative. So again, each member department will have a contributor for content, will help shape that together through our community engagement coordinator, and then put that to social media. The marketing plan will be obviously more detailed with some imagery on that, but that's the intention, is to show that so we understand what's going to be happening when we can plan for it, and then others, how do we respond to other unforeseen circumstances? But again, sharing the communication line. So again, that internal piece, while we're calling it internal, it's really how can we grasp all that information that we have internally before we share it externally. So it's really a comprehensive proposal.
Any other questions from any of the council members? Go ahead, Deputy Reeve, please.
Thank you, through your Reeve. It's just a scheduling question I have, and probably Carson might be able to answer it too. The strategic plan 24 to 27, does that mean the strategic plan comes back up for reevaluation in 27? And I was just curious if this process will be interrupted at all, because that last time some of those strategic plans can take 6 months to 8 months to produce through a new council, and I'd hate to see any of this process have to wait or.
Through your worship, to answer Deputy Falconer's question, you're correct with the timing. So North Huron has traditionally adopted 4-year strategic plans with the 1 year tying over into the next term of council. That gives the next term of council that kind of first year to figure out, get up to speed, figure out what's a priority for them. But in this case, in the 2027 budget, we'd have money for a new strategic planning exercise, which then gets adopted and takes effect January 1st, 2028. So that's your timing piece. As for whether if any of this would be interrupted, I'd defer to CAO Santos for that.
Certainly through you, Reeve, to members of council, the intention is to have these plans in place prior to the transition of council, so that this is in keeping with the current strategic plan. It's one of the goals and targets and projects that have been identified. So we'll bring this process into reality, so that will start to function going forward. After the election, again, we'll review where we are in terms of identifying it, and actually the strategic plan will be part of that communications plan. So how do we get more interaction from the public to help participate in the new version for the next 4-year plan?
Any other questions? Go ahead, Councillor Wright, please.
Yes, thanks for your Reeve. Just another question about the marketing plan. Is the intent for it to market activities that are just being organized and brought forwards by the township, or is the intent to include other things going on in the community? Perfect example, I know this came up a couple of years ago. The sidewalk sale in Wingham is always the first Saturday after the long weekend. Someone phoned up the township office wondering if they knew when the date was, and it wasn't on the calendar, right? So the response was, we don't know. So that's a perfect example, I think, right? Is the intent to start capturing and marketing those kinds of things, or is it just going to be, say the services that North Huron is delivering or the programs that North Huron is delivering?
Okay, thank you through Reeve to members of council. The intention is to hopefully have the marketing plan as wholesome as possible. Obviously, we want to be experts in everything that we know that we do as a township and services that we provide, but then also recognizing that importance of connecting with engaging with all of our local partners. So again, we've been doing significant outreaches to our service clubs and to our associations to kind of get more feedback as to what's happening. Try to be engaged and be part of those events as well as best we can. So our hope, and I guess at the end of the day, the marketing plan should be something that provides assets to not only, and supporting the assets to not only North Huron, but as a region and perhaps even county. So again, reaching out to our neighbors, how can we help leverage some of that? Perhaps we get support from the promotions and events that we're looking to, give additional voices to. So again, it's meant as a proposal to show, again, say it's tourism, for example. How can we best showcase those events that are happening within our community that may not be put on by ourselves, but again, as hosts, how can we help support and promote them in those tools, tactics that we'll have, right? So again, whether it's through promotions and signage, or whether it's through new booklets or calendar notes that we'll put together, all of that is kind of like an opportunity, and we'll share that with our neighbors to kind of say, do you see yourself working with this, and how can we work with this to make it more knowledgeable in the community?
Go ahead, Councillor Palmer, please.
Yeah, thank you, Reeve. I wasn't sure whether bringing this up here or later on in the agenda, but we mustn't forget about how we communicate with our volunteers. I haven't heard that so far, and we mustn't forget they're too good of a resource. It's not just how to communicate and how to work with volunteers. It's how to thank them. That has to be done.
Duly noted. Any other questions for the two here? If not, I'll turn it over to Clerk Lamb, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So there's the accompanying staff report as agenda item 6.6.2, where we'll actually be seeking council direction to endorse the communications plan and direct for it to come back by bylaw. But at this point, just with the delegation, it may be prudent to receive the delegation for information purposes.
Okay. May I have a mover? Councillor McBurney, Councillor Palmer, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, Barbara. Okay, at this time, we're going to go to moving down to 6.4.1, Public Works 2026-25, purchase of sand salt shed for Wingham Public Works Yard. So at this time, are there any questions for Director Watson on your thing? My only question is, where is this going to be, at the north or the south end of your thing? If you probably said in the note, but I maybe missed it.
To you, Reeve Heffer, the building will be closer to the road on the north side. So kind of the footprint
That's it.
now where they store the sand and the salt, but a little closer to the road.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Now I'll go Deputy Reeve, please.
Thank you. Through you, Reeve. I just noticed there's the only one quote. Was it put out to tender, or is this within the framework of not requiring a tender?
Through Reeve Heffer to Deputy Falconer, we did a canoe quote on this. So we just received the one quote.
Go ahead.
To you, Reeve. I think it would be helpful if we had some refresher information on the canoe process and how that fits into our procurement policy. Just because I don't know how and when one is a canoe procurement eligible, and when you do need a quote, because we do several purchases in that price range, and some go to quote, some don't, and I don't know the process, so I don't want to act inappropriate out of the not having knowledge.
Director Fletcher.
Through you, Reeve, to Councillor Faulkner. We have set up a procurement workshop with the rest of the townships, municipalities, the county itself. All of us within Huron County are getting together to review our procurement policies. With the new Buy Ontario legislation that's come out, pretty much everybody is at the point where we are looking to revise those. So at that time, we are going to be going through all the components. Are there things that we need to add? The canoe purchase, as Director Watson mentioned, that is through the cooperative procurement process, which is part of our policy currently. How do we, how are we technically managing all of that, and how do we best report it back to you? So we are exploring some other options in terms of workflows with Laserfiche and such, but we will be doing a comprehensive review of the overall procurement policy, and then we'll be bringing it back to council to see if there are any limits or authorities that we want to update in that.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Palmer, please.
Yeah, transparency comes to mind. When you tell somebody that, oh, it was a canoe appropriation, they don't know what that means. The public doesn't know, and I can't tell them, yeah, there was 3, 4, whatever other bids, and this was a bit uneasy when I read it. I, what? Like, I'm not against who won, but still, you want to see the other bids. My, if I may, Director Watson, not sure. I know what the buildings look like, but what kind of walls? Are we talking cement, and how many feet and what have you?
Through you, Reeve Heffer to Councillor Palmer, what we will be utilizing are the block foundations
the big
that we
blocks.
have there. So these structures are engineered to sit on top of these stacked blocks. There will be metal plates installed on the joint points to alleviate any outward pressures. But yes, they're very much engineered for that situation. Yes.
Any other questions for Director Watson with this? Okay, can we go with the staff recommendation, or somebody wants to put another motion on? Let's see, go ahead, Councillor Palmer.
Make a motion that we accept this.
Okay, a mover, do we have a seconder? Councillor Whitfield, all in favor? Carried. 6.4.2, Public Works 2026-26, purchase of utility tractor and attachments. There's a follow-up report there that we had. Now, through that, was there any questions for Director Watson? Sorry, did I see a hand move over here? No? No? Oh, go ahead, Councillor Van Henderson. Okay, move it. We have Councillor Van Henderson moving it, seconder. Councillor Palmer, all in favor? Carried. 6.6.1, CS 2026-06, Wingham Firefighters Association Canada Day Fireworks 2026. Are there any questions? We'll ask our CEC to come to the podium. Are there any questions for with this? No questions? Clear as mud. There'll be explosions coming up. The dogs are going to get barking, great fun. The kids love it. So, no questions at this time. I'll ask for a mover. Councillor McBurney, seconder. Councillor Wright, all in favor? Carried. CAO 2026-12, Communications Marketing Plans Update. Are there any questions here for our CAO at this time? I think he was hit with a lot of the questions earlier. Seeing no questions. Oh, go ahead, Councillor Wright, please.
I guess just to confirm some of the things that were discussed, do we need to work them into the motion, or are they just going to take the feedback and incorporate that into the updated report?
turn over to Clerk Lamb or CEO.
So, yeah, so my comments would be, if it's in relation to the communications plan itself, they should be in the motion because that's going to be coming back for bylaw at the next meeting. If it's related to the marketing plan, that's currently underway. CAO Santos will incorporate those items as part of that, building of that plan.
So then, yeah, I think we should modify this motion to include the additional work that the CEO mentioned would be done with regards to communications with council.
Okay.
And volunteers, yes.
We can support that as tactics changes, and we'll incorporate that into the purview from our CEC Community Engagement Coordinator piece, so.
So, Councilor Wright, if this isn't what you're looking for, just let me know, but your new motion would be that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives the report of the Chief Administrative Officer dated June 1st, 2026 regarding the Communications and Marketing Plan update, and further that Council endorses the final communications plan, subject to an amendment to establish a formalized process regarding communications to council and volunteers, and further that Council directs the Clerk's Department to prepare a bylaw for the June 15th, 2026 regular meeting to adopt the communications plan.
Yes.
Well, yeah, sorry about that. I find the addition of the volunteers in the same sentence as council a little bit confusing. I think everybody needs to be informed, but it's like our community groups and service groups as well. But if you don't mention those, then why would you do the volunteers? It's a little bit of a weird combination.
Yeah, I defer to CEO Santos of whether the volunteers piece is already captured throughout the policy, rather than, I guess, naming every individual group of volunteers, community groups, that kind of thing. If it deals with communications to the public, you're likely fine, and then it depends if you really want that formalized process for communication specific to council. That likely is a different piece to the puzzle. So it would all depend on what council's intent is and what you want to see when that comes back.
And just help offer some clarity on that too. So our current communications plan speaks to all internal, so council as well. It speaks to media. It speaks to, our employees, but also speaks to other government bodies and agencies. So including nonprofits and groups in that is already kind of encompassed. Volunteers specific, it doesn't mention that, so we can add that as one of the tabs. But then I also want to remark that our strategic plan currently also has another initiative that speaks to volunteers and volunteer acknowledgement and recognition. So that's a separate piece from this. But at the end of the day, once we adopt an acknowledgement program for volunteers here, that will feed into the communications plan at the end of the day. So again, the volunteer piece can be included with the word volunteers as the amended, but then I think the program itself should be adopted separately so that we understand what, have a council endorsement of what a volunteer acknowledgement and recognition looks like, and supportive of that, whether it's, again, years of service or an annual presentation. We want to put something together that council can then endorse, and then we'll incorporate that separately with communications.
Go ahead, Councillor Palmer, please.
Thanks. Thank you, Reeve. I understand that, CEO, but I think staff has direct communication with volunteers when they're setting up whatever job that they're going to do, any project that they're going to do. And so that's different. Recognition, yes, I can see that that's taken care of somewhere else, but no, I see it. We have a direct responsibility to have communication with volunteers.
So I got
Yeah, so there's currently a motion on that's been moved by Councilor Wright. You need to require a seconder. And I can read it back after if council still
Okay,
wants.
do you have a seconder before Clerk Lamb reads back? Go ahead. Yeah.
So the motion on the floor is that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives the report of the Chief Administrative Officer dated June 1st, 2026 regarding the communications and marketing plans update, and further that council endorses the final communications plan subject to an amendment to establish a formalized process regarding communications to council and volunteers, and further that council directs the clerk's department to prepare a bylaw for the June 15th, 2026 regular meeting to adopt the communications plan.
Okay, we have mover seconder, all in favor? Carried. Notice of motions. Are there any notice of motions? There's no requiring action or direction correspondence. Bylaw 9.1, bylaw number 41, 2026, committee appointment policy. May I have a mover? Counselor Van Hitterson, seconder. Counselor Whitfield, all in favor? Carried. Bylaw number 42-2026, issuance of information technology equipment to council members policy. May I have a mover? Deputy Reeve, seconder. Counselor Palmer, all in favor? Carried. Bylaw number 43-2026, lease agreement with AMDSB for before and after school programs. May I have a mover? Counselor McBurney, seconder. Counselor Van Hitterson, all in favor? Carried. Other business? Seeing none. Okay, we'll go to council reports. You can tell spring is sprung and things are going on. I had the honors of the 40-year celebration of cadets in town here. I got to do the reviewing of the reviewing officer, and it was a great experience. It's really got larger in Wingham with Battalion 543, and it's just an honor to be there and just seeing how these young gentlemen behave. It is truly really exceptional because, as I say, down the road, they are our future leaders. CAO and I were able to go to Sweets and Treats. They had their 30 years celebration, and also at the north end of Wingham here, but also they've started a new one down in Blythe, which is great to see. But she just said how it started in her house, and 40 years later, she has quite a business going there. And again, being at each end of the township is really great. And want to say kudos out to the volunteers for moving the community garden. I know a lot of food goes to the food share there, and they got it all moved, and most of the beds, I understand, are pretty well ready to get planted, and I know some are planted. And just on a great note with the county here, and a girl from Miss Hess from East Wallinosh, she won the paramedic award, medical directors commendation award. They're quite I won't go into the story what it was, but it was just a great job that she and her partner did. And again, they commended her for the great work that she did there. So it's great. She's just out by Belgrave there, down the Belgrave Road. And just, it's great to have somebody knowing in our area being able to do that responsibility. And then just the last thing just happened yesterday was Wingham Community Connectors. They had a taste of togetherness, and there was 6 different countries represented. Philippines, Jamaica, Netherlands, Indonesia, China, and India. So there's great turnout. There's over 100 showed up there. So some information is getting out there. So I can hardly wait till when this communication thing all gets out there, it's going to be busy. So again, it's great seeing things going on in our community. Go ahead with any council member board committee reports. Councillor Van Hitterson, please.
Thank you very much. Maitland Valley Conservation Authority had their meeting on May the 20th. They're still very much trying to stop the amalgamation for conservation authorities, but the ministry is just plowing on, and the chair, Mr. Beard, and the chair and the staff, director, treasurer, CEO, were appointed to as representatives to the Lake Huron Conservation Authority Transition Committee. Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency has retained Ernst & Young to organize all kinds of information from all the conservation authorities. They were granted, all the conservation authorities were granted just 1 hour to sort of an interview and got list for 20 pages of list with what they want to see. But it looks like everything is already set in stone, and an hour to communicate your preferences or why it's very important to keep all the watersheds and the local knowledge is kind of difficult. And Ernst & Young is really not familiar with, it's an accounting and management company, so they're not really familiar with the conservation authorities, so that is a big hurdle. We also received minister's directives regarding conservation authorities, and they are very strict and limited. It's the governance of the conservation authorities is being more difficult and very limited for now. They're putting more restrictions on it every time. And there's still a huge problem coming up after the elections, how governance for the local conservation authorities will work. So it's a busy time for Mr. Beard and the chair, Edmund Dugan. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any comments by members? Go ahead.
Thanks, Sri. We've actually had a board update. So just for the Wingham BIA, the new digital sign towards the north end of town is now up and running. It's located near the Maitland Community Church in Libro there. Really caught my eye as I was driving by. So I think it'll help balance out some of us that never kind of went out the south end of town very much. But anyways, I think it'll grab a new market. And I think as everyone's aware, the original intent of those signs was to provide free advertising to Wingham BIA members. But last year it was opened up to the non-BIA members being able to purchase advertising, and that's actually taken off quite significantly. It now pays for the a bit more than the hydro to run those two TVs, so it's actually been a nice revenue stream for us. The other thing is an update on the Main Street video surveillance that the BA wanted to see happen. So that has kind of gone, I think, in a good way. The BIA is just going to offer to purchase security cameras for individual businesses that want to put them in their businesses. So there won't be any liability concerns because it'll be wholly owned by the store owners. The only stipulation will be that they register those cameras with that OPP program, so they're just aware of where the cameras are and can pull video footage off there if there has been an incident or a need for information. So I think that's going to go ahead, and there's new cameras now that actually just mount to the window, kind of in a suction manner. It's all battery powered, no wires, no nothing. So it's very easy from an installation. So that offer will be going out to BIA members here shortly. End of report. Thank you, Reeve.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Reeve. I also want to mention that the Belgrave Kickoff to Summer event is in 2 weeks, 12th, 13th, and 14th of June. It's going to be a great event. There will be lots of things going on for children, and committee is really busy right now to get everything together. And if anybody feels that they have time to volunteer, that would be really much appreciated.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Palmer, please.
Yeah, thank you, Reeve. I'm going to mention this because it could affect us, and it relates to agriculture and med students. I was asked by the Bruce County Federation of Agriculture if I would come up to Walkerton there and talk with 10 med students, and they had a whole couple of days of bus rides to different production sites like a dairy farm, fertilizers, an elevator system, a machinery dealer. So that just some of these people are Torontonians, and they have no idea what's happening out here and what affects farmers. And Margaret wanted me to talk about, seeing that they're going to be doctors soon, what it's like to have a pretty severe farm accident. So I really let them have it, and as what it's like, and at some point in their career, they could very well have contact with an accident victim. And the whole idea is that they're students. We might get one up here. And I know one of them has a home farm in the Zurich area, and he wants to come home nearby anyways, and he could very well come up this way. So that's why I wanted to mention it. It's important that doctors, potential doctors, soon-to-bes, know what it's like.
Thank you. Any other comments by members? Go ahead, Deputy Reed, please.
Thank you, Reeve. First off, I'd like to, offer the south end of the township, open wide, arms wide open. If any of the councilors want to can come south, they can come south. There's the Friends of the Village on June the 14th. We're having the rededication of their memorial gardens at 9 a.m. and it'll be the induction of the new leaves for the memory wall, and all are welcome.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Wright, please.
Yes, thanks, through you, Reeve. On Sunday, I had the opportunity to attend the 100th anniversary of CKNX at the Wingham Town Hall Theatre. It was an absolutely packed house. I've never seen it full. It was full to the chairs along the back wall. Yeah, apparently it sold out in 2 days. So if you weren't quick on getting the tickets, and we showed up an hour in advance to get in, and we were probably in the last half of the people coming in. A little tempted to use my fob to get a side entrance, but I was a good boy and stayed in line. But they did a fabulous job. Went over the whole history of CKNX, focused a lot on the history of the barn dance. Circle 8 roundup. There's, a whole bunch of iterations there. And again, going back to, and the other thing I was going to mention is, didn't really recognize a lot of faces in the crowd. So it tells you the pull that the history of the barn dance still has as a regional attraction. Going back to the marketing plan, I think there's a tremendous opportunity that Wingham has around the music industry. Obviously, Blythe is doing great with the theater, and I think we could also get Belgrave involved in rural and farm related events as well, right? So I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunities in North Huron. We just the disappointing thing about not having things coordinated is that happened on a Sunday afternoon where all our Main Street businesses are largely closed, right? So I think that's the opportunity, right, to seize the timing of events if possible to coordinate with the maximizing economic benefit in the region. Thank you, Reeve.
Thank you. Any other comments by anyone? Okay, sounds like all of you are very busy, so we'll move on to next meeting's announcement. They're written down there. Just keep them in mind. On June 15th, we have to have a Committee of Adjustment meeting held in the council chambers here at 5:30. The next regular council meeting will be held on June 15th at 6 p.m. in the North Huron Council Chambers, and the next Blythe BIA Board meeting will be held June 18th, 8 a.m. at the first floor of the Community Center, and the next Wingham BIA Board meeting will be held on June 18th, 2026 at 6:30 in the Hot Stove Lounge here in the West Cass Community Complex. Are there any other announcements? I know a couple were mentioned during your comments, so that's great. So at this time, going to a closed session reporting out that the Council Township of North Huron hereby proceeds at 7:08 p.m. to an in-camera session closed to the public under Section 239(2)(f) of the Municipal Act to discuss the following advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, solicitor advice regarding draft agreements, and further, that the CAO and the Director of Legislative Service / Clerk remain in attendance. May I have a mover? Counselor Van Itterson, seconder. Deputy Reeve, all in favor? Carry. So we'll have a 5-minute break at this time now. Santos is going to report out at this time.
Okay, thank you. Council just met in closed session to deal with matters that are subject to solicitor-client privilege under Section 239-2F of the Municipal Act. Through the discussions in closed, Council has given direction for staff to pursue the amelioration of agreements for affected property owners in the township.
Thank you. Okay, conformatory bylaw. Bylaw number 44, 2026. May I have a mover? Councillor McBurney, Councillor Wright, all in favor? Carried. Adjournment. Council Township North Huron agreed, being no further business before council, June 1 regular meeting be hereby adjourned at 7:52. May I have a mover? Councillor Whitfield, Councillor Wright, all in favor? Carried. Meeting adjourned. Very good. Thank